Hi everyone, welcome to Value. So today we're going to talk about RKLB. They just released their first half results for 2021 and they are pretty impressive, especially the future. The future is just filled with so much potential. It's hard not to like this company, and it's probably why the pre-market pricing is up about 8%, because the market loves the presentation, they love the future of the company, and it's basically this company share price in the space of just over a week has gone from about $10 to $15 before these results came out, and now we're looking at it going to $16.23, which is pretty impressive. In less than 2 weeks, you're looking at a share price that's going up over 60%, which is pretty amazing. Especially if you timed it well. If you didn't time it well, I mean, you're still going to be happy. Like if you brought in at any time during expected listing, you would have done quite well. Right, so let's just jump into the presentation and let's talk about the numbers that matter. I will try not to keep you for too long. Unless you've seen the presentation, which is about 48 minutes long, I highly implore you to watch it. But if not, I'm just going to try to give you a real brief snippet of the main numbers. So first half revenue numbers was $29.5 million, 237% up from last year, which is pretty amazing and pretty good, though you kind of want it to be going that quick, because this is $1 billion company, and if they aren't producing massive growth numbers on these numbers, it's not going to justify the valuation. So they kind of need to back their numbers up by getting some really high growth. And the numbers for the 29 million is made up of 24 million in launch revenue. So as you know, RKLB sends rockets into space, and in those launch satellites, and basically that's how they make their money. They sign up customers, their customers pay them to send satellites on their rockets into space, and that's how they earn $24 million for this first half. And then they've got another side called Space Systems, which they earn $5.4 million, and this is where they earn money from selling parts, the majority of that revenue comes from a company they acquired last year called Sinclair, and it's based in Canada. The launch is based in New Zealand. Their parts kind of sales are based in Canada, and they have a launch pad that's opening in the US as well, but it requires NASA's approval before they can get that going. Everything's all built, they just require approval, and also they have another launch pad being built in New Zealand as well. So many things happening in this company, and a lot of excitement to come as well. And as I put here, their margins have gone from negative 67% to positive 13%. So all of a sudden, this company is in a very good situation going forward financially. But of course, they're still losing a lot of money. So we'll try to jump into that. So if we zoom in to their net losses, so last year net revenue was $8.7 million, and this year was $29.4 million. So a very nice jump in revenue. And then the biggest question is, how does it translate to net loss? Net loss is $32 million. So even though they earn more money, the net loss is still quite high, because they are spending a lot more on research and development, which jumped from $6 million last year to $15 million. So that's where the biggest increase is coming from in terms of that loss. Last year's loss was $23 million, but that's not too bad. Like in the scheme of things, this company, if we go to the cash position, firstly, they have about over 700 million that they just recently got from the merger. So if you're holding over $700 million, then I think the current losses are not a problem, because if like $32 million in a scheme of 700 million means they have a ton of cash to burn before they need to raise any more from shareholders, which is always a nice part. In terms of their outlook for quarter 3 and quarter 4 and the full year, quarter 3 is not as impressive because there's current a COVID lockdown in New Zealand, which means they can't launch as much. So they're only looking at about $4 to $5 million for quarter 3, and as they put, despite our manifest supporting up to 5 launches and 40 million in revenue, we are forecasting Q4 revenue to be 17 to 20 million, assuming assuming there's not going to be restrictions at the end of September. So as they put, they can earn as much as 40 million in one quarter, which I think next year, assuming things are all right, and they manage to get everything going, then I think they're going to hit their targets, and they're going to get probably close to that 40 million per quarter, and probably around about 160 million. But I mean, those are just estimates, because I think that was their forecast last year, around that $160 million. And here they're kind of re-emphasizing that they could do $40 million in revenue if there's no impacts. In terms of the full year revenue, they expect about 50 million to 54 million. And that is majority based on the recent third quarter impact, which impacts it by 10 to 15 million dollars. So you can see that this current impact is actually quite an impact on the company, particularly on a financial aspect, given that they're earning about 50 million, and because of the current impact by COVID, they're earning 10 to 15 million less. So in a revenue basis, that is quite a large amount. I think that's probably it in that aspect. But now time to go to the more fun parts about the company. Is, financials. Not everyone's going to be that excited about financials. Well, particularly not at this stage anyway. As it's put, they successfully listed, and you can see everyone's celebrating. There's a New Zealand flag because this is a company that was started up in New Zealand, but it is now headquartered in the US, of course, and listed in the US. But the launch is very much based in New Zealand, but in the future, launch will be based in New Zealand and the States. And as I've already talked about, the reaction wheels that they're producing, which is going to bring about a bright future for the company. The cool thing is they've just inked a deal with was it Kinesis? Oh, right, Kinese, that's the one. This name, when you look at it, you're like, oh, how do I pronounce that? So the company name is Kinese. And I've just signed a 5 launch deal with Kinese to send 25 satellites into space over 5 different missions, which is pretty awesome. And that's going to start in 2023, which will be a big boost for the company as well. So you can kind of see that, as I alluded to in the presentation, that their aim is to go from deals that just based on one mission to multiple missions. So they want bigger customers, they want more launches signed up all at once. It's much easier and much less time consuming trying to sign up big clients with many missions than trying to sell one client with 1 or 2 satellites or just one mission. Much easier signing a client that has multiple missions, and then they can just focus on getting the work done. As I put, they're expanding their backlog to $174 million, which is amazing because it means they have more business and more launches than they can actually complete. So all they have to do is consistently schedule those launches, and they will consistently earn their money. And basically, they don't have to worry about finding extra business as much because they've got so much backlog that there's no big rush in that sense. And they've alluded to. They did a mission for the US Space Force, and that was accomplished in the end of July. And yeah, they've got customers that range from commercial to government. It's very diverse, as I put here. So in that kind of sense, you've got a company that has kind of flexibility on the clients, and basically they've also got a massive future ahead of them by producing a massive rocket called Neutron, which is going to basically compete with SpaceX itself, because this one's going to be capable of launching the medium to large satellites, which will be interesting. But this won't be here for probably another few more years. But it's nice that the company has this kind of goal that they want to go and build something for the future as well, and not just focus on the current small satellites. If this doesn't work, then it's all right, because they still are one of the best companies right now, if not the best, when it comes to small satellites. And yeah, originally their backlog was growing from 60 million to 141 million, and this was at the end of June. So by the end of August, which was basically 2 months later, they'd gone from the 150 million to 174 million. Well, 141 million to 170 million, which is quite a nice increase when it comes to the growth in the backlog. And also, they are not just stopping there, they're also focused on recovering their boosters, which help them reduce the time it takes to start missions, and also reduce their costs as well. One of the big parts about why they were also looking at making new parts is because there's no company that makes these parts in such a massive scale, and whenever they tried to find someone to do that, it either took a lot of time, or no one was able to do it for them. So they thought, we're so good at this, why don't we just continue to do this even on a larger scale? And that's what's impressive about this company. So in terms of the first half, they did 3 launches in the first half, which they are pretty happy with, which was they reached their 20th in the first half, but as it was put in here, they did their 21st launch, so they're up to 21 launches. So that's the really cool thing about this company, that you've got a company who's already done 21 missions. They're very, very successful at it, and all they have to do is keep repeating what they're doing. They've got a massive backlog in terms of missions that they have to fulfill. And basically for this company, it's just a matter of being able to expand on scale right now, rather than say like a company like Astra. So if we look at like Astra, at $2.25 billion, this company is still trying to succeed when it comes to sending a rocket into space. They're on their 3rd failed attempt so far, and this is a $2 billion company. Whereas we're looking at Rocket Lab, and this company is getting closer to a $7 billion company now. Basically, this company is already proven. It's basically at the forefront of everything, and yeah, they're basically at about 7 billion now. On a pre-market basis, yeah, you would probably put them at a 7 billion basis, and yeah, you would be and you'd probably be right if you were saying that in the future this company is going to be worth more, because they're just so good at what they do, and they're just so they're not stopping where they are right now. They continue to try to innovate, to reduce costs, to speed up their launch times, and to generate more revenue in different areas. And basically, because they're at the forefront and customers are getting to know their name, Like a lot of companies are starting to understand and hear about Rocket Lab. So when people want to send satellites into space, and they're either looking at SpaceX or they're looking at Rocket Lab, then basically those two companies are going to get a lot of business because their names, the ones that everyone thinks about, they're the ones with the true branding, reliability, and trust going forward. And as Rocket Lab has said in their presentation, that their pricing actually has been actually getting better, which is also really good. As much as people might perceive this area to be quite competitive, being really good at what you do means you get some really good pricing as well. And so far the pre-market also for the share price is going very, very well. I'm pretty pleased with this company and then what they've reported so far. The market clearly is quite impressed as well. In terms of valuation, I think they've kind of reached their fair market valuation at the moment. And then you'd probably have to wait for more progress getting the end of the year or next year before I think you would see more substantial increases. But though, the share price could continue to get ahead of itself, and that's never a bad thing. And that could also be with anticipation of next year's results as well. But currently I do perceive this fair value basis around 7 billion. And yeah, I think if it continues too high, like if it continues much higher to like a 10 billion or 15 billion valuation, then I think you definitely really want to consider reducing your position and taking off some profit. Only if you're not in it for like the long run in terms of the next couple of years. But if you're in it for a long run, then I guess it doesn't matter with the volatility. But if you are in it for the short run and the price actually gets that high, then I think potentially, you might want to consider that you might want to sell some. And I think anything above $20 or $25, I think you really want to consider managing your positions accordingly, especially if you've made a good profit. Because I do kind of see the current scenario to be fair value. Fair value is fine. Fair value means it will hold its pricing, or it might go down a bit because it has gone up a lot so far, but it also might go up a bit as well. So it'll just go up and down for a while, unless it has a massive boost up. Then you have to make these decisions accordingly to how long you can hold for. Because if you go, I can hold for another couple of months and hope the pricing goes up, but the question is, what if the pricing doesn't go up? So you probably just want to adjust your risks accordingly. So remember, anything that goes up too quick will have profit takers, and it means the share price will come down eventually for a little bit. It doesn't mean it's not going to go back up, but it could be an extended amount of time before that happens. And if you need that money in that time, then you just have to manage your positions accordingly. And that's all I have to say about that. Until then, good luck investing, everyone.